Hey guys, welcome to Callie and Beans Books. I'm Callie and today I'm going to be going through my last TBR of 2021. These have been getting incrementally more challenging as the months have gone on. I've realized this and I've done nothing to stop it. But whatever, I have a ton of books to get through because I, as usual, am overly ambitious. For my usual, I'm going to start off the month with trying to finish a completed series that I just do at the beginning of every month. And this month, I want to finish the Furyborn trilogy, which are very large books. They're all 500 pages and more, which consists of Furyborn, Kingsbane, and Lightbringer. This is a high fantasy story with a dual timeline following one woman who has all 7 elemental powers. There is a prophecy about 2 queens will rise, a sun queen who will save the world, and a blood queen who will bring it to ruin. Then we follow 1,000 years later when bad things have happened, and we're following another girl who basically gets kidnapped. They're trying to save the world again, but with less bad things. So, I love this series. This is one of the few series that I picked up after finishing Throne of Glass that gave me the exact same feeling, and I love these characters. I've read the first 2, so I just need to read Lightbringer, but I haven't read the first 2 in probably about 1.5 to 2 years, so I'll be reading those to catch myself up before what I'm going to assume is the heartbreaker of Lightbringer. Up next, I have My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a completely different tone than my usual books, but I wanted to try something different. So this, I saw a lot on BookTube a couple years ago where we're following, this is again a dual timeline, but we're following this one girl who in her 30s, her English teacher has been outed as a pedophile. And we follow her trying to understand that. And at the same time, we're also going back to when she was 15 and when she was a student who did have a relationship with this teacher. We follow her story of trauma and healing throughout. This one I know has a lot of trigger warnings in it, so I'm going into it very tentatively, but with an open mind because I am really excited to kind of see what aspects of trauma, assaults, power dynamics will be explored within this book. In my long quest of keeping up with all of my books box editions, I will also be reading A Lesson in Vengeance, which is a sapphic witch story, and that is all I know. And I believe this was my August Owl Crate book. I believe it was August. Yes, I'm in August this month. So, I believe this was less fantasy, more thrillery contemporary, but I like witchy stories, and I do enjoy the sapphic romances that have been trickling into the YA verse. I've been enjoying them. They're interesting. Similar thing with my book boxes, I am going to be reading Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore, which is one of my book of the months. This is the 3rd book in the League of Extraordinary Women series, which is a historical romance following these female suffragettes in about 1880s England. And in this one, we are following Hattie, who is an heiress to this whole banking corporation. And when she has to marry a guy that she doesn't really like, it goes on from there. I'm expecting enemies to lovers. I'm expecting a lot of banter. He's a Scotsman. I'm expecting very undertones of Outlander, and I'm very excited about it. Up next, I have Wintersong by Jae-Jones. The only thing I know about this book is it is a Goblin King retelling. And when I think of Goblin King, I think of The Labyrinth with David Bowie, which I loved watching as a young child. I love that movie. It was one of my favorites. It was constantly playing in the backseat DVD player of my parents' car. And I haven't seen a lot of Labyrinth, Goblin King kind of retelling, so I'm interested to see what this will bring. Next, I have Grave Mercy by Robin LeFevers. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. I know nothing about this book. Absolutely not. It's assassins. That's it. That's all I know. I've heard really good things about this author's other series, Courting Darkness. I also got that book hardcover for $3 on Amazon once. and I didn't know that it had a prequel series until I read the synopsis after I had bought it. So not great choices were made with that one, but I have this now, and I've seen it still in the stores, so it's gotta still be good, right? I hope. Up next, I have The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender. I've heard a lot of this book, mainly from BookTube, because this went around a lot before I even kind of got onto BookTube, but it's about a girl who was born with wings, and I have no idea. I was constantly recommended this book when I joined the BookTube community, and I'm finally going to read it. I think it's also a sad book. I have no idea. Up next, I have The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith, another book similar to the Ava Lavender book. I saw this going around a lot right when I joined, and I'm finally getting around to it. This is a YA contemporary story about a girl in high school who is assaulted by her best friend's brother, and she decides to pursue justice. And it follows her through these turmoils with her friend, with her friend's brother and their family, along with the justice system. So I'm very intrigued to see what kind of angle this book will take on that topic. Up next, I have Into the Crooked Place by Alexandra Christo. It was described as Six of Crows-esque, and I met Alexandra Christo a couple years ago. Before this book came out, she was on tour for her To Kill a Kingdom. She was on tour for her To Kill a Kingdom book, which I really enjoyed. It's very fun, cool, if Ariel was an assassin story, which was fantastic, and I liked it a lot. So naturally, I went and picked up her newest duology. This one does have 2 books. The second book, I believe, came out this year, and I want to finally dive into it. Up next, I have The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. This is a story, again, I saw this go around BookTube right around when I joined, and it's intrigued me ever since, and when it came up on sale on Book Outlet, I snagged it, and I'm finally reading it. This is following this Disney-esque Disney World-esque play area. Theme park, that's the word I want. Theme park. And they have these animatronics who I guess start to go bad. I'm not really sure, but it's following this princess animatronic. And I've been in a really big animatronic kick. I have a slight obsession with FNAF, but that's for another day. And I don't know, it seems like a really interesting concept where if we had an animatronic of Cinderella and she just went insane. That sounds amazing, and I'm hoping that that's what this is. Next, still keeping up with all my BookBox books, I have Afterlove by Tanya Byrne. This is following a girl who has just died and has been asked to join a gang of female reapers. That was all the synopsis gave me, and that's all I needed, because that sounds really weird and obscure, but a hell of a good time. So that one I got in my August Fairy Loot box, as well as These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. I've been dying to finally read this, and I'm so excited it has finally moved its way up into my TBR. This is an ACOTAR meets The Cruel Prince. That is at least how it was marketed, and that's everything I love in a fantasy book, so I'm really excited to finally get to this book. Up next, I have A Dance with the Fae Prince by Elise Kova. This is her second book in the Married to Magic series. I finally got my hands on a copy of book 2. I did read A Deal with the Elf King a couple months ago, and I really liked her writing style, so naturally I'm going to pick up her next book. Plus, Elise Kova is going to be at a Polycon, which is an event that Sarah and I are going to in July. So I want to read up on a ton of Elise Kova's books, so naturally got to pick up the most recent one. Next, I have The Girl in the Tower by Katherine Arden. This is book 2 in the Bear and the Nightingale or Winter Night trilogy, which I read book 1 in November, and I really liked it. It was very lyrical, very atmospheric, and I'm excited to see where this story is going to go. Up next, I have Red Hood by Elena K. Arnold. She's the author of Damsel, which I read a few years ago and really liked. I actually also met Elena K. Arnold for her tour of this book, so I believe this one's signed. I believe I got them signed. Yes, and it's assigned to me, which is really cool, and I love that. So I think this is just a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, but knowing Elise Kova's writing, she is extremely lyrical and has a lot of symbolism regarding feminism and femininity. So I'm excited to see how she takes that and puts it into a Red Riding Hood telling. Next, I have Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. This is book 2 in the Rebel in the Sands trilogy, which I read book 1 last month. And I really liked it. It was a very cool Middle Eastern setting, fantasy story. There was a lot of really cool magic. I really liked the cast of characters, so I'm excited to continue on the journey with this series. Next, I have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, and I have finally decided to pick it up, mainly because I have a Book of the Month edition, and that's just how the cycling of all my books goes. So I'm excited. This is following a couple who are both on vacation, and they are both writers, and they both have writer's block, so they decide to swap genres. Our male character writes literary fiction, and our female character writes romance. So they switch genres, and I'm assuming romance ensues. That's usually how these books go. But nonetheless, I'm excited to read this. I've heard nothing but great things. Brittany read it, and she really enjoyed it. And I've heard a lot of good things of the author's other book, which I actually just got in my current Book of the Month as my BFF Book of the Month finalist pick. I think that's what it was. So I'm excited to dive into this author's writing. Next, I have Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I've never read I've never read this series by Carrie Maniscalco. I have only read her Kingdom of the Wicked book, which I adored. Sarah's been trying to get me to read this series for a while, and so I have finally decided to pick up book 1. This is about a girl trying to become a mortuary or mortician. Mortuary is a place, not a thing. But she's trying to become a mortician at the time of Jack the Ripper. That just sounds really cool, and I'm kind of into it. So I've heard that this series is really good. I've heard a little bit of polarizing things, but nonetheless, I'm excited. Up next, I have Glint by Raven Kennedy. This is the second book in the Guild series. I think it's a series. I don't think it's a trilogy, which is a King Midas retelling, kind of. King Midas is a character, but we're following a girl who he has turned gold. But she's not, like, stone, she's just gold everywhere, and she's been in a cage, and now she's getting set free from said cage. This is also a romance, an adult romance series, very adult, and I don't know, I enjoyed book 1. It was a little cringy at times, but overall I enjoyed the plot line of the story, and I really liked our main character, Oren. And the last book that I have, which I've been ending my months with this series, I don't know why, that's just kind of how it's been going, and that is Barbarian's Prize by Ruby Dixon. This is the 6th or 7th book in the Ice Planet Barbarians series, and this is a wild ride, and I've been enjoying every second of it. They're short, they're fun, they're sweet-ish, and a great palate cleanser. And these are all the books that I plan on reading this month. With the holidays and everything else, I'm hoping that I'll have a ton of time off to just sit and read several books in one day, because that's usually what I do. I have a day off, and then I'll just read 3 books in one day. And that's how I accomplish this. And that's gonna be it for today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, with the occasional Sunday, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!